Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of our September cardicoat, and we continue on, and we need to continue with a few increases. Okay, so like I said, doesn't matter what size you're making, the rest is exactly the same. You might just have it a little bit longer or shorter than me. Okay, so to start our increases, this is what we are going to do. So we did one increase in the row before. We can see it right here. You can see the double crochet and a fan over it. Okay, so this is our first increase. Okay, so what we want to do is grab stitch markers. Now you're gonna find that fan that is underneath that double crochet. So this is the very middle of the side, so right underneath the armhole. Okay, and what you want to go to one fan to the right and mark in between. Okay, so this is the middle, one fan to the right, and I'm gonna put a marker right behind it in between the two front post double crochets. Okay, then grab another stitch marker. Again, look at the very middle one, go one fan to the left and mark in between. Okay, so this is where we're going to do our increases. We have 3 fans in between. Now the other side, underneath the armhole, again you are going to find that very middle right here, so under the double crochet, one fan to the right and mark in between, and one, this is the middle, one to the left and mark in between. Again, I have 3 fans in between. Okay, increasing is very simple. We are going to do this 3 times. Okay, so I'm gonna do it now, then I'm gonna have one full row of fans. So actually technically it's 2 rows. Okay, so I'm gonna have a row like this of a full fan in between my increases. Now if you want, you can do more increases than 3. So this is going to be increase number 1, then 1 normal row, increase number 2, 1 normal row, increase number 3. You can have 4 or 5 depending on how wide you want it. I just wanted to have an A line, so 3 increases like that will be enough for me. Okay, so increasing is very simple. We start our rows as usual, and we will always do an increase when we are starting the fans. Okay, so when we only have the double crochets and the chain 2s. So for now, make your usual fans in the chain 1 space until you come to your stitch marker. Okay, so here is my stitch marker right in between two fans. I'm gonna take that out. So right in between the 2 front post double crochets right here, I'm just gonna make another fan. So 2 double crochets, chain 2 and 2 double crochets. So we just add a fan in between. Okay, then don't skip that next chain 1 space, it's right there, very close, and your normal fan into the chain 1. Then the next one, then the next one, and I have my stitch marker. Again, it's in between 2 fans, in between 2 front post double crochets on the other side. I'm gonna take that out and make a fan right in between those 2 front post double crochets from the previous row. Okay, and then the next chain 1 space and as usual. So finish this row. You're gonna have to do the exact same thing with your other 2 stitch markers, and I'll see you in the next row. Okay, so finish this, start the next one, and I'll see you approximately where the increases are. And so I am right here at my increases. You can't really even see them anymore because they blend in so well, but this is my first increase of the 4, and nothing special. We just bring it into our pattern as any other fan. And here we are. It's really quite unnoticeable that there is an increase right there. And just continue on. So nothing special. I just wanted to show this because there are some people watching me that are just beginners of crochet and they might just get confused, so I just wanted to show that. Okay, so now finish this row. This is a row with increase. Now the next 2 rows, okay, or a full row of fans, so this is 2 rows to make up a full fan, okay, with no increasing. Just make 1 in between the increases. You can actually make 2 if you want, depending on the size that you are making. I am thinking about the people that are going to have the smaller cardigans, so you're not going to have so much length at the bottom, so I would rather make the increases higher up just to make sure that they all fit in. Okay, so finish this row, make 2 more rows, and then we will do our second increase. Now for those people that need to plan out a little bit the coloring of the cardigan, let's say for me, I want the bottom to be a mirror reflection of these 3 colors. So this is what I'm going to do. Okay, so I have a little drawing and this is just a plan, so whatever you plan to do, you can just follow the way I do it. Okay, so this is 1 color, 2 colors, and 3 colors. Okay, so dark, lighter, and very light for me. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, like I said, I want mirror reflection, so the bottom is gonna be dark, lighter, and very light. Okay, again, so I want to match this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure out how long my coloring is. So from where I have started to where I want to do my color change is 20 centimeters. That means that I need to leave 20 centimeters from the bottom for the coloring. Okay, so 20 centimeters just to match the top. So this is going to be 20 centimeters. The next thing that I'm going to see is the length of the cardigan. Now I'm going to show this again after we're finished with the increasing, but this is just for the coloring if you want to do something. Okay, so we're going to see the length of the cardigan, the size that you're making. So for me it is 34 centimeters approximately. Okay, so from the armhole to the very bottom, the length is approximately 34 centimeters. So as the bottom has to be 20 for me in color, I am left the difference right here. So let's say 32 minus 20 that I need is 12 centimeters in the middle. So I'm gonna have about 12 to 14 centimeters in white color, and then I'm gonna start doing my changes, and I'm gonna do the same kind of marking at the sleeve. So I will do a similar kind of counting and see how much I have to have here in white before I start my colors again. So hopefully that makes sense. This is, I'm just planning up front, and this length again is a very approximate. You can change it around depending on what you like. You can make it longer or shorter. I'm just gonna stick to these numbers and see where I can get. So at this moment, let's say we will be measuring the length from the armhole. So I am at approximately, let me see, at approximately 7 centimeters. I need this to be approximately 12 to 14 before I do my color changes. Okay, so that's for those who want to do some planning ahead. Anyways, now let's finish this row, make the next 2 rows, and come back and we will see another increase. And so I am ready to do one more row of increases. So I had increases right here. This is no increases, and I will do increases again. So first of all, I am going to mark again. So again, we will be looking for that fan right underneath the armhole. So you can see this is right here. One fan to the right and mark right behind it. Middle, one to the left and mark behind it. So exactly the same as we have done before. And on the other side exactly the same. Middle, one to the right, mark, middle, one to the left and mark behind it. Okay, so I'm not going to show you because it's exactly the same as we have done. You just make an extra fan in those places and the rest is exactly the same. So you want to do 3 of them. We have done one big one, one small one, one big one. This is going to be the second big one and third big one. You can do more as I have said, but I'm just going to have 3 of them. Okay, so again, I'm going to skip 1 or maybe even 2 rows and because I have a lot of length left. Okay, and then I will do another one. So for now, keep going until you reach the full length of your cardigan. Now I'm going to show you this again if you have not seen. So this is the length of the cardigan. We measure that from the from underneath the armhole, and for me, for 3 to 4 years that I'm making, is 34 centimeters approximately. You can always make it a little bit longer or a little bit shorter. So right there where the armhole is starting, I am at 10 centimeters now. I need to be approximately right here somewhere. So still a lot of length to go. So I'll see you at the bottom approximately when we have finished the length. So 32, 34 centimeters approximately in length. Okay, so keep going. I'll see you when we have all of that finished. Okay, so here we are. I have finished the length of my cardigan. If I measure that from the armhole, it measures about 31 centimeters. Yeah, 31 and a half or somewhere. So I needed it to be 32 to 34. It's close enough. I'm happy with this length. Okay, so now because I'm gonna do the edging in the same color, I'm just gonna continue on with where I have left with my slip stitch edging. Now if you want to change the edging, because the slip stitch edging takes a little while, you can just do single crochets or whatever you feel like you want to do. The only thing why I want to do this edging is to match the edging ribbing at the top. Okay, so what we're going to do, first of all, you need to, if you have any tails, you need to hide those tails. Okay, I don't have any more, so I'm just gonna continue on with my slip stitches. Okay, so to start your slip stitches, what you want to do is make sure that you put 2 slip stitches into the edge of each row. So this is a double crochet right here on the edge. I'm gonna have one slip stitch, 2 slip stitches. Then it's the chain 2, again 2 slip stitches in here. So 1, 2. There's a double crochet, 1, 2, chain 2, 1, 2, and so on. So we put 2 slip stitches at on the edge of each row. Like I said, I'm not changing colors, so I'm just going to chain 1. If you're changing colors, you're just gonna have to attach it as close to the bottom as possible, and into that double crochet, slip stitch, 2 slip stitches. Then it's a chain 2, 1 slip stitch at the bottom and 1 at the top of that chain 2. There's a double crochet, 1 slip stitch at the bottom and one at the top. And this is how you keep going all the way up to the top. Now I'm gonna see you at the ribbing where the neckline is starting. So I have reached my ribbing. I have a row of single crochets right here. So one slip stitch to the edge of that, and then we have the leftover chains, or the other side of the chains that we have not used when we were starting the ribbing. So I'm gonna go, you can see the tiny little holes there, so I'm gonna go into each of those and make a slip stitch. Take your time, try not to skip anything, and by the way, try not to make your slip stitches very tight, because it might pull on the edge. Okay, you kind of want them loose for the edge to be nice and straight and soft. Okay, so here we are. I have my first row of slip stitches. Now the next row is going to be slightly different. We will, after this row that we're going to do now, we're going to work into the back loop. Now to make, to start the ribbing, this row now we're going to have to work into the front loop. So you can see the loops on the very edge, right? So we're going to work into those all the way down. So where you have finished, chain one and turn. Now you want to be looking at the inside of your cardigan. Okay, so it might get a little bit tricky. So here we are, you can see the little V's, and we will work into the front loop. Okay, so this is the slip stitch, this is the front loop, into the front loop and slip stitch. Okay, this is the slip stitch into the front loop. Might be a little bit difficult to see. So you're kind of going from the bottom into that slip stitch and just catching one of those loops, the front. Okay, so see, it's unnoticeable. So continue on. It will get easier once you get to this edge, especially if you are using a different color. So again, I'm going to show you, just in case you cannot see. So this is a slip stitch. You can see it clearly. I go from under and I just catch the front loop. And front loop. Front. So just like that, keep going until you get to the very bottom. So I have finished 2 rows. I have 4 more rows to go. Now from now we will be crocheting into the back loop, so we're back to the normal ribbing. So what you want to do is you want to chain 1, starting, so skip that chain 1, so this one right here, into the bottom, into the back loop of the slip stitch. Now start your slip stitches, and I'm going to count my slip stitches in this row. So I have 1 into the back loop, 2, it's hard to show because the stitch is kind of are turning away from you, 2, so then 3 into the back loop, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and keep going. I will see you at the top. So I have counted, now I have 86 slip stitches. Now you don't have to have the same amount as me, you just need this for the other side. Okay, so we match the same number. So I have 86, I need to remember that. Okay, so row 4. Now if somebody needs those buttonholes, this is where we are going to make them. So I got 4 markers. I actually need 5, or I'll actually see if I need 5 buttons or not. So you are going to mark out now where you want your buttonholes to be. So the top button, I don't want it to be too high up. I just want it to be approximately here somewhere where the neckline is starting. But then it's completely up to you wherever you want it to be. So just mark this right here, and you will be skipping 2 slip stitches to make your buttonholes, or even maybe more depending on the size of the buttons. Then I'm gonna count approximately 10 or 11 slip stitches to have the to have the space in between the buttons. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You can choose a different number if you want more space in between. So 1, 2, so how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so I am quite happy. I have this bottom without buttons. I'm happy with how they are. You can always leave more or less stitches in between them, completely up to you, whatever you want to do. So to make your buttonholes, you're gonna chain 1 to start and turn. Now my cardigan is getting really big, so it's getting harder to turn under the camera. And into the back loop of those slip stitches, we're gonna start slip stitching. So into the back loop, okay, so I slip stitch. The next stitch has a stitch marker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 2, skip 2 slip stitches. So slip stitch 1, slip stitch 2, and into the back loop I'm going to slip stitch. So this is the buttonhole that I have. I need to make sure that this is enough for my buttons to go through. Yes, it is. So I'm going to leave skipping 2 slip stitches and 2 chains above. If you need it bigger, you can chain more and skip more slip stitches at the bottom. And then I just continue on into the back loop. Again, I am at a stitch marker. I'm gonna chain 2, skip 2 slip stitches, 1, 2, and into the back loop, slip stitch, and continue on. Okay, so the rest of the buttonholes are exactly the same. Once you don't have any more buttonholes to do, just go to the bottom, chain 1, turn around into the back loop, slip stitch back up to your first buttonhole, or the bottom buttonhole, and I will see you there. We'll see what to do with those chains. So I am at my bottom buttonhole, and I'll just go into the back loop of those chains and slip stitch there, and continue on as usual into the back loops. So we are on row 5 of slip stitches. We're gonna have to do just one more row on this side. Okay, so again, these are my 2 chains. I'm just gonna go into the back loop and into the back loop and continue on. Okay, so like I said, if this is row 5, up, when you finish, chain 1, turn around and finish the row number 6 into the back loop all the way down. So this is where I'm gonna see you. Okay, so row 5 and then row 6, we're just cleaning up that edge. And I just finished my row number 6 of slip stitches. I'm gonna chain 1 and cut my yarn. I'm gonna pull that out, and this is one side of the edge done. Now we're gonna do a similar thing on the other side. Now the other side of the edging, we want to start at the top, and we need to connect our yarn. So find the very top stitch, pull that out, chain 1, and now we have back loops right here until we get to the edge. So we're gonna use the back loops for what we have from the neckline right here, okay, to do our slip stitches. So into the back loop, slip stitch, and this time I'm going to count my slip stitches to match the number I had on the other side. So this is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. Okay, so then there's the single crochet, and I don't have any more back loops, so I'm just gonna start my slip stitches into the edge of the rows. So this is 12, and then again 2 slip stitches into the side of each row. So 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16. Again 2, 17, 18, 19 and 20. So keep going just like that. I'll see you at the bottom. Okay, so row 1 is finished. I actually got exactly 86 slip stitches as on the other side. Now if you're missing 1 slip stitch, it's not a big deal. 2, 3 or 4 slip stitch difference to the other side is a problem, okay? But I do have to say I had to put an extra one right here at the bottom to get to 86. But again, 1 slip stitch is not a problem. 2 might be a little bit noticeable. 3, 4 is a problem. Okay, so try to get that number. Now, again, row number 2, we are just going to use the first loop, going all the way up to the to our neckline. Okay, so again, it's very similar. I'm just gonna remind you, chain 1 and turn. So for row 2, you want to be looking at your inside of the cardigan. So you can see it looks like I've sewn it on. It's really cute, I think. And you want to find the front loop of your slip stitches. So if that's the slip stitch, this is the front loop from the bottom up, slip stitch from the bottom up, and continue on until you get to the top where your neckline is starting, and I'll meet you right there. Okay, so we are continuing right here into the first loop, and we are just finishing row 2. Now we need to match the other side, so we need 6 rows in total. Okay, so be careful right here at the top. Okay, so this is my last one. Okay, then you're gonna chain 1 and continue on slip stitches into the back loop from now on for the next 4 rows. So no buttonholes on this side, just purely 4 rows of slip stitches into the back loop, and we will be finished with the edging. So do that. I'll see you after. I will clean up my edges. I'm just gonna hide those tails. I'll leave one tail to show you how I hide so that they are unnoticeable. And I will already have my buttons sewn on, so I will have my front completely finished. I want to do that because it makes it easier for me to do the sleeves when I can close the front. Okay, so keep going. I'll see you when we have fully finished front. And as you can see, I already have my buttons. This is all nice and closed. Now I have left 2 tails to show you how I deal with these, although it's very simple. So I'm going to take the first one, that is where I have finished my edge. And I'm just going to go right on the top, a little bit further away from the edge there. So just in between the stitches onto the inside. And I'm gonna see that it looks nice and neat. I'm just gonna follow those stitches back up to the top. So just like that. That one is finished. And one more, so exactly the same from top to the side, either of those sides. I'm just gonna go in here, in between those stitches. It might be a little hard because there's not a lot to catch on to. I'm just gonna pull it so it looks nice and neat. And back up to the top. And done. Okay, so we have the most of the cardigan made. All we have left is sleeves. Now sleeves are very similar to each other. Okay, so again, remember we had different joints here, so I just want to show you both of them. So for one of the cardigans, you have your slip stitch, excuse me, not slip stitch, stitch marker in the V-stitch right here. Okay, and you have the double crochet here, so you will be joining on top of that double crochet. And the other one is, again, you have that double crochet right here. You can see it really easily, and your stitch markers in those where the 2 front post double crochets are. Okay, so we will be joining on top of that double crochet as well. Okay, so right before you're starting, if you are going to do some sort of color changing, you need to plan this out. Now I'm going to quickly show you the length of the sleeves. So sleeve right here, the bigger number is the length of the sleeve. Okay, so 20 centimeters, 21, 22, 24.2. This is the one that I'm making on the pink one. 26.5 and 28.5 centimeters. Now the smaller number you can see on the bottom is the width of the sleeve. Okay, so after we make the first 2 rows, we're gonna measure if we need to do a little bit of decreasing to take down that width. Okay, so it's exactly the same on both. So if you need to do some sort of planning out your colors, you can do that now, and you have to do it before you start. The only planning that I did was really that I leave 5 centimeters for the ribbing at the bottom, and then I just kind of measured out how much of the length I need to leave for those colors right here, and the rest I just did in white right here. So you can see I have only 3 fans in white and 5 fans right here on the cardigan itself. So it's the sleeves are a little bit shorter than the cardigan itself. Okay, so any kind of planning, you do that right now. So first we start with the sleeves. So I will be showing both sleeves, although they are very similar. I just don't want anybody to get confused at all. So I will show you the first row on both ways, okay? And then the rest is exactly the same. It's just the difference of placing your first few fans. Okay, I shall start with the one that we have the 2 front post double crochets at the corners. So grab the color that you are going to use for it. Look for that double crochet or any place where in the middle of your chains where to connect that. And you start all your rows with chaining 2. So 1 and 2. And then we're gonna turn because we need to make our first row on the inside of the sleeve. Okay, so your first fan will go into the double crochet right under the stitch marker. So this is the double crochet that you have connected with, okay? So go right into that double crochet and make a fan. So 2 double crochets, chain 2 and 2 double crochets. Then you're gonna skip where your stitch marker is, or the space where the 2 front post double crochets are, where you will have connected. You're gonna skip that, and you're gonna find the chain, the next chain 1 space, so it's right behind it. Okay, so I'm just gonna skip that and go in here and make my next fan. And then a fan into each chain 1 space, oops, all the way around the sleeve. So keep going. I'll see you approximately here somewhere on the other side of the sleeve. And I am just before my stitch marker on the other side. I have 1 more chain 1 space where I'm gonna put my fan in. Now we're gonna skip this place where your stitch marker is and go right into the double crochet underneath where we have connected. Okay, so this was our corner, we skip that, we go into that double crochet and make a fan. And that is it for row 1. We're gonna go underneath the chain 2, so into the space after the chain 2 and slip stitch. And then we are ready to start row number 2. Just give me 1 second. I just want to quickly show the other one how to connect, and then because the rest is completely the same, so we will be able to go on everybody at the same time. So if you had your corners finished with a V-stitch, you probably know by the cardigan color which one you should follow by now. As well, you're gonna find the double crochet or the very middle of the armhole. Connect your yarn, chain 2 and turn. Again, you are going to start your rows on the inside of the sleeve. So now you want to put your very first fan right where your stitch marker is. So into that chain space. So that is the only difference. So 2 double crochets, chain 2 and 2 more double crochets. Then you're gonna find your next chain 1 space, which is right here, and continue on with your fans. Okay, so keep going. I'll see you right here. So finishing it up again, my last chain 1 space before my corner right here, I'm gonna put a fan right where my stitch marker is. Chain 2 and 2 more double crochets. You can take your stitch markers out and we connect under the chain 2 where we have started. So under that and a slip stitch. Then you're gonna chain 2 and continue like the other one. We have all of our fans established by now, so we are just gonna keep doing our pattern. So the next row, it's very simple. I'm just gonna show you the beginning of it. So chain 2 and turn. So this time you will be going around on the outside of your sleeve. So first of all, see where your next fan is, and with the front post, double crochet, half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet, and front post. Now you remember the pattern, I'm sure, so keep going. I'll see you when you finish your last fan from the sleeve. Okay, so to finish the row, once you have your last fan made, you're gonna find the chain 2 where you have started, go in between the chain 2 and the fan, slip stitch and chain 2 to start the next row. Now before we start the next row, this is a great place to measure the width of your sleeve to see if we need to do any decreasing. I definitely need to do some decreasing on this one. I'm not sure about the other cardigan yet because I have not done the sleeves, but I'm pretty sure that I need to do on this one. So we're gonna check the width of our sleeve. So for me, 3 to 4 years, this is the size that I'm making. So this one, the little bottom number here is 11.5. So what I want the inside of the sleeve to be as close to 11.5 centimeters as I can. Now to check that, grab your measuring tape, put it on the inside of your sleeve, okay? So there's no point of measuring it like that because the thickness of the stitch comes into that length. So you measure the inside. Okay, and as you can see, it's approximately 14 centimeters in width. I need it to be approximately 11.5, maybe a little bit wider. I don't want to go any smaller than an 11.5, but I want to get a little bit closer to that. So for your decreasing, it is quite simple. So what you want to do is, we're gonna, first of all, we're gonna get rid of this one, of this fan right here. So chain 2 and turn. So instead of doing your usual fan into the chain 1, we're just gonna put 2 double crochets in there. 1 and 2. And then as usual, you're gonna go into your chain 1 spaces and do your normal fans. All the way around until you get to your chain 2. Okay, so only the first one gets decreased with 2 double crochets. All the rest are normal. Finishing this row again, find your chain 2 and go under, slip stitch, chain 2 and turn. Now we need to get to that decrease, so everything as normal with the front posts, half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet and front post. So as usual, all the way until you get to those 2 double crochets where we need to do the decrease. Now this is where we're going to finish our decrease. So last full fan and the 2 double crochets. Okay, so in the last fan I have made front post double crochet, half double, chain 1, half double. I need to make another front post double crochet, but this is where we are going to crochet the front post double crochet and this together. So yarn over, start your front post double crochet as usual, pull through 2 loops and stop. Now you're gonna yarn over, go right in between those 2 double crochets, pull your yarn out, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. You have 3 loops left on your hook. You're gonna yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Now we have crocheted this together and we got rid of one of those fans. So this fan underneath that was right here, it's no longer existing. And connect under or behind your chain to the slip stitch. You're gonna chain 2. So the next 2 rows are normal. Even if you need to do a little bit more decreasing, we can't do it straight away one after another because we're gonna get a funny shape in our sleeve. So let's just do the next 2 rows. Your usual no decreasing. So chain 2, turn, find your next chain 1 space and make a fan. So finish this row, then make another one with the front post double crochets, and we will come back and we will do the measuring again to see if we need to do another decrease. So I finished with no decreasing under the chain 2, slip stitch, chain 2 for the next row. Now I'm going to change my color, so I just chain 1 and I cut and pull that out. Change of color, and we are going to measure again just to see if we need to do another decrease. So grab your measuring tape, and again I want it approximately 11.5 centimeters. I'm at approximately 13 centimeters in width now, so I definitely need to do another decrease. Now the thing with decreasing these kind of patterns, okay, because it's made out of a lot of stitches, so we lose a whole fan straight away. So we'll lose 5 stitches from the sleeve. We cannot do it always on one side. So last time we did it in the beginning of the repeat row 1, okay, with the double crochets. Remember, we did it right into the very first one. Now this time, if you need another decrease, you're gonna have to do it in the very last one, just to keep your seam at the bottom of the sleeve. Because if you will do your decreasing on one side all the time in the beginning, let's say, of the row, your seam right here, it will keep moving that way, and it might get to the place where it's noticeable. Okay, so to do decrease on the other side at the back of the row, very similar, just kind of a little bit different. So I'm going to change my colors. Again, I'm going to chain 2, and for now I'm just going to start my row as usual and keep going until I get to my last chain 1 space. Just keep going. We're going to do the decrease at the end. Okay, so I'm at my last chain 1 space. Now remember, do the decreasing only if you need it. If your sleeve is not too wide for you anymore, you just keep going around, making the fans that you have. Now I need to lose one more fan, so we're gonna have my last chain 1 space. I put 2 double crochets in there, and that's it. I'm gonna find my chain 2, go under, slip stitch, chain 2 and turn. Now this time we're gonna lose those 2 double crochets straight away. So yarn over, go in between the 2 double crochets, catch your yarn, pull it out, yarn over, pull through 2 loops and just finish for now. Okay, then you're gonna yarn over, go around the next double crochet, so as if you are normally starting your fan, going around, pull your yarn out. You have 4 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and here we go, all that is gone, and then you just continue on as your usual fan. So we have crocheted 2 double crochets together, the front post and the double crochet, so the double crochet kind of disappears, and we only have the fan left. So keep going to finish this row, and the rest is exactly the same as we have done. So you keep doing those decreases until this will measure around what you need. So I only need to do 2 decreasing, and I know that because I have already made the other sleeve. Now let's quickly talk about the length of the sleeve. So I have it here. Okay, so again, the big number under the sleeve is the length of the sleeve. We measure that from the armhole, from where we have started our sleeve, and for me it is approximately 24.2 centimeters in length. Now it becomes a little bit tricky to measure these sleeves because they are very, very stretchy. I try not to stretch too much, and if I measure from my armhole, you can see I'm at approximately 25 centimeters in length. So it came out a little bit longer than on my chart. Again, it's not a problem at all. It's rather be a little bit longer than shorter. So this is the full length. Now what you want to do, you want to keep going with the pattern until you have approximately 5-6 centimeters left for the ribbing. Okay, so single crochet row and 8 slip stitches for the for finishing the sleeve. Now if you end up here missing more or less, you can always change the number of slip stitches to adjust the length. So for now, keep going. I'll see you when we have approximately 5 centimeters left to the full length of the sleeve. Okay, and so I'm almost at the ribbing, so I'm just finishing the last row of the fans right here, and I need to do the repeat row 2 or the row with the front post double crochets, and the last row we're gonna do something a little bit different, just slightly different. So you start the row with chaining 2 and you turn. Now front post double crochet as usual, then a half double crochet in the chain 2 space. Now the only difference to the ones that we have made before is we do not make the chain 1. We just have half double crochet, another half double crochet, and the front post double crochet. We just want to clean out that edge so we don't have the chain 1. And front post into the next one, half double crochet, and front post double crochet. And that is all there is to the last row with our fans. So keep going, we're almost finished. When you finish this row, slip stitch around the chain 2. Okay, so next we need to make the base for our ribbing. So you're gonna chain 1 and turn and make 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. So starting with the very first one, just single crochet around. You can count your single crochets to make sure that the other sleeve has the same amount, so they are exactly the same. Keep going, see you right here. So when you finish your single crochets, slip stitch into the very first stitch. Now the next thing that we are going to do is we're going to start the ribbing. Now it's gonna be a little bit different to what we have done here. Here we started with the ribbing and then attached the cardigan to it. Now we're at the sleeves. We have the sleeve and we need to attach the ribbing to the cardigan. First of all, we're gonna figure out how many slip stitches we need for the ribbing. Now I'm going to do to start with 9 chains, and then I'm gonna have 8 slip stitches. Okay, you always have 1 extra chain, then you are going to have the slip stitches. So you measure whatever you are missing at the very end of the sleeve. So let's say I'm missing about 5 centimeters. Then what you want to do is you want to grab your measuring tape and put it underneath the where you have the single crochets, okay, so you don't want to catch them, and you kind of count out how many slip stitches fit into those 5 or 6 or 7 or 3 or 4 centimeters that you are missing. So you can see they look like chains. So if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 or whatever number that you're missing, you just kind of count it out and then you add it to the end of the sleeve. Okay, so I have 8 slip stitches, but I have 1 extra chain. So I'm gonna chain 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now, if you're not very used to these kind of ribbings, when you attach it, perhaps you should get yourself a stitch marker. That might make it easier for you. Now we're gonna start with skipping the top chain, the chain number 9 we skip, go into the one underneath and start slip stitching. So 8 for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 slip stitches. Now this is the hard part, okay? So if you're not very used to it, you can mark your very last slip stitch. So just put a stitch marker in there. So this is the last one that I have before the hook. Then I'm gonna make 2 slip stitches onto the sleeve. So 1 and 2. 1 slip stitch and 2nd slip stitch, and we're gonna turn. Now you need to skip those 2 slip stitches that you have made to connect to the sleeve, so 1 and 2, and you can see I have the 3rd marked. That is where we need to start, okay? So put your yarn in front and into the back loop start slip stitching. So slip stitch 1, I'm gonna take my stitch marker out, I don't need it, I already found where I need to start, and then into the back loop. We have done a lot of that, so I'm not gonna go very slow on this. I just want to make sure that you understand the connection part to the sleeve. Okay, so 8, chain 1 and turn and into the back loop. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Make sure you have the same number of slip stitches all the way around. And then again, if you need, you can mark that. I can't even pick up my stitch markers yet, so okay, so I'm not gonna mark. So if you need to, you mark this stitch. This is going to be your first stitch in the next row. Then you make 2 slip stitches, connect it to the sleeve, turn around, put the yarn in front of you. Make sure you skip those 2 slip stitches where you connected, 1 and 2, and you start on the 3rd one into the back loop. Again, you might have it marked if it's easier for you. I'm very used to these kind of ribbings, so I can see it. It's easier for me to see, and it's faster if I don't need to mark them. So skip the chain 1 into the back loop. Once you finish, you mark if you need to, then 2 slip stitches down to the sleeve, 1 and 2, turn, yarn in front, skip the first 2 slip stitches, 1 and 2, into the back loop of the 3rd or your marked stitch, start slip stitches into the back loop. And that is all there is to the ribbing around the sleeves. It might take a little while, so keep going. I'll see you when we finish. Okay, so you want to keep going with the ribbing until you have one or none stitches left at the bottom. So I have none left. Okay, so this is the chain where I have started, and this is the stitch where it's coming out of. Okay, so this is where I'm going to connect. Now if you have one stitch left right here, you connect into that, and then we can connect the two sides together. Okay, so as close to each other as we can. I'm gonna go into the bottom of that and slip stitch. Now the next step is to slip stitch this together. If you find it difficult, because it is a little bit tricky, you can always leave yourself a longer tail and just sew these two sides together. But I just find it easier so I don't have to keep cutting stuff. So what you want to do is you want to have your yarn inside the sleeve. Okay, then you find the very first chain where you have started. So this is right here for me. Go into that chain. I'm gonna skip that first slip stitch and into the second one, just catching the front loop. So this is the tricky part, especially to start. Okay, so the slip stitch and only the very first loop. It's a little tight there. I have to try hard to get in there. Here, so just the front loop. Yarn over, pull, pull, and pull into the next one. Find your next slip stitch, which is right here, into the first loop, pull, pull, and pull into the next one, into the front loop, and pull. Try to make sure that you don't skip any stitches, so you have the same number of chains and slip stitches on each side. Sometimes it's harder. And my very last one. Pull, pull, and pull. Chain one and cut your yarn. And so I am finished. Well, almost. I still need to hide my tails, but technically I have all the elements that should be on a cardigan. I just have to hide these and to finish the other cardigan. Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly show you a couple of tails. Now you do probably most likely need to do another sleeve at this point, so try to match it with everything, or perhaps write it down if you cannot remember how many, let's say, slip stitches you have made. So to finish right here, I'm gonna go in, keep that loop, I'm gonna go with the needle into that loop and pull tight to make a knot, and then I'm just gonna hide in between those stitches just a little bit, like that. And then with these, you might not have them. If you made it in one color, you might just have the one at the very armhole. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna hide it in between the same color. So let's see. So I'm gonna go into the seam. So this is white, into the seam, like that, and then in between the stitches wherever I can. Because it's a little bit lacy, it might be a bit harder to find a place. And then I'm gonna come back the same way, and done. And then into the same color, in between stitches, and done. So this is the way that I'm going to hide all my tails. So I need a few seconds to finish this and to finish my purple cardigan, and then we can see what they both look like. And here we are, I have finished my cardigan. So this is the 3 to 4 years ombre. I don't know about the ombre. I think some of the colors are a little too much, too different. So yeah, so it just kind of came out as a stripy pink and white cardigan. I'm very happy with it. It's lovely in the bright color. It's really eye-catching. So this is that, and then the other one, the much smaller one, the purple. I think it needs some sort of a flower, some kind of application here just to brighten it up a bit, but it looks really nice in one color. The pattern really shows off very well. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.